The Electoral College, the only school in session now and the oldest thing in this country that isn't at risk of the pandemic.
Electoral College is what actually elects a president. We all think we do. We don't really.
The 2020 election approaching, many voters recognize that where they vote may be more consequential than who they vote for. Like most elections, a handful of states will determine the winner. That's because of the Electoral College.
It's still hard to get used to the fact that Donald Trump will be president, especially because he lost by 2.5 million votes. But then he won the Electoral College, which is all that matters.
But the debate over the value of the Electoral College has intensified this year.
People love the Electoral College? Okay, I see one. Great. Okay.
The Electoral College is different. I would rather have the popular vote because to me, it's much easier.
It's an institution that has become kind of sacred, I think, to Republicans, and that's the Electoral College.
The Electoral College.
The Electoral College. It's the Electoral College.
Of the Electoral College.
The Electoral College.
This Electoral College.
The Electoral College.
The Electoral College.
The Electoral College.
The Electoral College.
We all know, well, some of us know the reason it was introduced in 1787. Some of us also know how old it is, but people then may not have because the self-winding clock wasn't even introduced until 4 years before. And if you don't know what it is, don't worry. Benjamin Franklin only invented bifocal glasses in 1780, so it's very likely the chaps who gave it the go-ahead were a bit vision impaired. And clearly Benji's parents were too, judging by how they dressed him as a child. But regardless of any gripes I may have in this hideous, hideous baby, we're all here today to talk about the Electoral College, the hottest thing to happen since Gervenius invented the circular saw earlier in the decade. This system consists of 583 representative electors that are divided amongst the 50 states. And in November every 4 years, American citizens head to the polls and vote for who they want to be the next president of the United States. And it's at this point in the election process when the Electoral College begins to play a factor in determining who that will be. Votes are calculated in each state, and whichever candidate receives the majority of that state's votes then receives the state's Electoral College votes. A candidate needs 270 total to secure the presidency. But let's talk about how each state allocates the votes with an example. In 2016, New York State had 29 electoral votes to give to either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. For the sake of simplicity, let's leave out the third parties, and I'm sorry, Gary Johnson, you and your supporters and their throwaway votes.
This drug, the THC, when in the 60s.
So 58.4% of New Yorkers voted for Hillary Clinton and 36.2% voted for Donald Trump. Therefore, all 29 of New York's votes went toward Clinton as she won the popular vote within the state. And all states use this winner-take-all system except for two, which would be Maine and Nebraska, both of which are quite popular for people not knowing how to point them out on a map. So why did the Electoral College come about? The Founding Fathers were trying to devise a balanced way to elect a president. They didn't want one to be selected solely by a select group of political elites, but they were weary of a direct popular election. They did not think the general population would be able to get enough information about a candidate to make informed decisions, as boldly predicted in the future, especially about candidates in other states. They believed this would lead to a strong tendency for voters to vote for candidates from their own regions. It should be noted that these concerns were relevant at the time. Wealthy white men had to hop on the Pony Express to travel to Washington, D.C. to learn information and for their voices to be heard. Times have certainly changed, and this is no longer the case. But wait, why would we get rid of something so historic? We haven't even gotten rid of General Hospital yet after 14,000 episodes just because it's the longest running American soap. I mean, everyone must have died at least a few times, and we're okay with that. Well, here's why. Even if the majority of Americans vote one way, some states don't matter as much, just like the General Hospital characters who didn't come back to life at least twice already.
Shall the bill pass?
Virginia is the latest state to jump on the popular vote bandwagon, sweeping through blue states.
Ayes 51, nays 46.
Getting rid of the Electoral College would require a constitutional amendment. In order to get around that, states like Virginia are considering the Popular Vote Interstate Compact, an agreement where participating states give their electoral votes to the winner of the national popular vote, even if it doesn't match their state's popular vote. 15 states and the District of Columbia, representing 196 electoral votes, have already passed the measure. All blue states that voted for Hillary Clinton in the last presidential election.
A driving force behind the division of electoral votes was appealing to small states in order to ratify the Constitution. This is why each state is guaranteed at least 3 votes regardless of size. This leads to a discrepancy where some states, at least based on population alone, would not proportionately receive 3 votes. For example, the state of Wyoming, known for that one Kanye album we never really liked, currently gets 3 electoral votes and has a population of 530,000, whereas Texas currently receives 32 votes but has a population of 25 million. When the math is done, likely without a calculator, because our friends in the 1700s didn't have a decent one of those either, a single vote in Wyoming counts over 4 times more than a vote in Texas. Even Donald Trump doesn't like the Electoral College. Oh wait, he does. Our president, who believe me is no stranger to changing his mind, must have flipped on the college many times. But why? So the Electoral College also causes this problem where presidential candidates sometimes only focus on swing states and large states with many representatives.
If you just went to popular vote, there are 35,000 cities in the United States. 20 cities have the majority of the vote in America. You could win a presidential campaign by just spending your time at 20 cities. Who cares about the other 34,980 cities? We're just going to ignore them.
And then there's the possibility of states being forced to support a candidate their people didn't want. For instance, if this proposed popular vote system had been in place for 2016, all of Tennessee's 11 electoral votes would have gone to Clinton, even though 61% of Tennesseans voted for Trump. Conversely, if Trump had won the popular vote, a state like California that voted 62% for Clinton would have to give its 55 electoral votes to a Republican. And that could spell trouble.
A swing state is not part of a playground, but rather a state where 2 major political parties have a very close level of support amongst voters, causing an uncertain outcome as to which party will be represented by the state's electoral votes. As the current system stands, voters in safe states are discouraged from even voting at all. Safe states are the ones that generally tend to vote for the same party election after election, which is why Republicans in California and New York tend to feel a low political efficacy and turn out less for elections. Large states are heavily focused on because they yield a large amount of electoral votes too. For example, securing votes in only California, New York, and Texas would give a candidate 96 electoral votes in the election. That's about 1/3 of the votes needed to even win the presidency from just 3 of the 50 states. And even if 1/3 of these people voted for little Benji to dress properly, who knows, maybe he would have listened. Under the Electoral College, it is possible for the winner of the nation's popular vote to lose the presidency. In fact, this has happened 5 times in history, the most recent case being with Hillary Clinton in 2016.
The first time in our nation's history that a woman will be a major party's nominee. I want to thank all the people across our country.
Trump won the presidency with 290 Electoral College votes, but Clinton received about 337,000 more popular votes than Trump. How can this be justified? More people in the nation voted for Hillary than Trump. Well, let's go back to that winner-take-all thing really quick. A certain candidate can win the majority of a state's votes by even 1 vote, and most likely all of the state's electoral votes. This leaves large percentages of the state completely underrepresented or unrepresented in the Electoral College votes for president. So what we've learned today is that the Electoral College is old, it's faulty, and there's some stuff to figure out for the future. So why don't we use popular votes like other nations? Why don't we abolish this winner-take-all system? And why don't we tell little Benji that his shirt does not go with those pants? While I can't answer any of these questions, hopefully we start to see some governmental change in the next few years to come to end this polarization. Still, at least now, we understand how the Electoral College works. And hopefully, unlike those General Hospital characters, when this one dies, maybe it'll stay that way.